It was 6:45 in the evening in a quiet suburb outside Atlanta, Georgia. The kitchen smelled like garlic bread and baked ziti, but the house smelled like emptiness. I set the table for two, just like I did every night. Forks neatly arranged, napkins folded, and 2 glasses of sweet tea poured. But I already knew one seat would stay empty. Just like yesterday. Just like last week. My name is Lisa Carter. I'm 39, myself and Marcus as being married for almost 13 years. We have 2 kids, Jaden is 10, and little Ava just turned 6. We live in a 2-story home with a white picket fence, a swing set in the backyard, and a mailbox that still reads Mr. and Mrs. Carter. From the outside, it looks like the American dream. But the inside. It's a quiet kind of heartbreak. I heard the garage door open just as I was setting Ava's plate on the table. Jaden looked up, hopeful. Is Dad eating with us tonight? I didn't answer right away. Go wash your hands, sweetheart. Marcus walked through the door, phone in hand, tie half undone. He looked at me briefly, then turned his eyes back to the screen. Dinner's ready, I said. I'm not hungry, he mumbled, already climbing the stairs. Just like that. No kiss. No hi, babe. Not even a thank you. The kids and I ate in silence. Jaden poked at his broccoli. Ava kept glancing at the stairs. Why doesn't Daddy eat with us anymore? She finally asked. My chest tightened. He's just tired from work, honey. A lie I told too often. A lie I had almost started believing. After dinner, I bathed Ava, helped Jaden with homework, then tucked them both into bed. I read them a bedtime story, kissed their cheeks, and turned off the light. I walked back downstairs to clear the table, his untouched plate still sitting there. I scraped the food into the trash, washed the dishes, then sat down on the couch with a blanket over my lap and my heart in my throat. I looked around at the house we built together. Every photo on the wall told a story: our wedding on the beach, our trip to Disney, the kids' birthdays, smiles frozen in time. I missed those smiles. I missed my husband. I missed us. Upstairs, I could hear him on a Zoom call, laughing, chatting, alive in a way he never was with me anymore. Was he really working late? Or was he just tired of me? At 10:30 p.m., I went upstairs. The bedroom door was cracked open, but the light was off. I peeked in, he was already in bed, back turned to me. Good night, I whispered. He didn't respond. I got in on my side of the bed, curling up beneath the sheets. The space between us felt wider than the Grand Canyon. He didn't reach for me. Didn't ask how my day was. Didn't even notice that I had cried in the shower. I closed my eyes and tried to remember the last time we laughed together. Or touched. Or talked like people who were once madly in love. We used to be inseparable. High school sweethearts. He used to write little notes and leave them in my car. He brought me coffee in bed. We danced in the kitchen with the kids giggling around us. Now he barely looked at me. I stared at the ceiling for hours, listening to the hum of the air conditioner and the ache in my chest. People think the worst kind of heartbreak is when someone leaves you. But they're wrong. The worst is when they stay right there beside you but act like you're invisible. And you start to question everything. Is it me? Is it work stress? Is there someone else? Or worse, does he just not care anymore? That night, I whispered a truth I hadn't dared to say out loud until now. I was married, but completely alone. And I didn't know how much longer I could pretend everything was okay. The next morning started like every other one: routine, robotic, and quiet. The smell of pancakes filled the kitchen. Ava danced around the table in her pink pajamas, and Jaden sat, eyes glued to his cereal, asking if he could skip school. I smiled at them, trying to keep the light in my voice. But inside, I felt hollow. Marcus still hadn't spoken to me. He came downstairs, dressed in his usual navy suit, looking sharp and successful on the outside. He grabbed his travel mug of coffee without making eye contact. I cleared my throat. You'll be home for dinner tonight? He gave a short shrug. Not sure. I've got a meeting at 6. Might run late. I nodded, even though I wanted to scream. He kissed Ava's forehead, gave Jaden a quick pat on the back, then left. No kiss for me. No goodbye. Just the sound of the front door clicking shut like punctuation at the end of a sentence I never got to finish. I stared at that door for a long time. Then I sat down at the table and sipped my now cold coffee. Where had my husband gone? Not physically. He was still here. But emotionally, spiritually, intimately, he'd vanished. Later that day, after dropping the kids at school, I drove to the grocery store. I walked the aisles slowly, not even sure what I needed. My cart was half full when I passed by the bakery section and saw the small chocolate cake Marcus used to love. I picked it up. Then I put it back. Why buy cake for someone who wouldn't even sit at the table? On the way home, I stopped by Ashley's place, my best friend since college. She opened the door in sweats, holding her toddler on her hip. She took one look at me and said, "Girl, come in. You look like you're about to cry." I smiled weakly and stepped inside. She handed the baby to her husband, then led me into the kitchen. I didn't even get through the first sentence before my voice cracked. "He doesn't see me anymore, Ash. I cook, clean, raise our kids. I smile. I do everything I'm supposed to, but it's like I don't exist." Ashley sat beside me, holding my hand gently. "Lisa," she said, "you've been carrying that marriage on your back for years. You're exhausted because you're doing all the loving for both of you." I broke down right there in her kitchen. "I don't know what I did wrong," I whispered. She squeezed my hand. "Maybe nothing. Maybe he's the one who stopped trying." Her words hit hard. We talked for a while longer about marriage, resentment, routines that become cages. Then she said something that stayed with me. Marriage is not just sharing a house and kids. It's about showing up. If he's not showing up, what are you holding on to? That evening, I made dinner anyway. Spaghetti and meatballs. Marcus didn't show. The kids and I ate together. Ava told a story about a boy in her class who eats glue, and Jaden made a face that made her giggle until her juice came out of her nose. I laughed with them. But when they went to bed, the loneliness returned, quiet and heavy like a blanket I didn't ask for. I sat on the porch, watching the streetlights flicker on. The air was cool, crickets chirping softly. I scrolled through my phone and opened a photo album from 3 years ago, our family trip to Florida. There we were, smiling on a roller coaster, ice cream smeared on Ava's face, Marcus kissing my cheek on the beach. What happened to that man? To that love? My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. "Working late. Don't wait up. No, I love you. No, how are you?" Just 4 words that reminded me I was alone in this marriage. I went back inside, turned off the lights, and lay in bed. I stared at the wall until the sound of the garage door opening snapped me out of my thoughts. It was past 11. He walked in quietly and slipped into the guest room again. No explanation. No apology. And that's when I knew. This wasn't a rough patch. This was a pattern. This was emotional abandonment. And the worst part? I was starting to get used to it. Being married doesn't protect you from feeling lonely. Sometimes, it magnifies the ache. I rolled over, pulled the blanket over my shoulder, and whispered into the dark. "I just want to be seen." But the only answer was silence. The next morning, I woke up early. The bed beside me was empty, cold as usual. I got up, brushed my hair into a messy bun, and walked downstairs. The house was quiet, no footsteps, no laughter, no sound. Even the silence had weight. I poured cereal for the kids, packed their lunches, and tried not to let the ache in my chest show. Marcus was already gone. Again. No goodbye. No kiss on the cheek. No note. Just like yesterday. And the day before that. After I dropped the kids at school, I came home and sat in the bedroom. The house felt like a museum. Everything was still, frozen, like it was holding its breath. I got up and started organizing his closet, not because it needed it, but because I needed to do something. That's when I saw it. Tucked beneath one of Marcus's jackets was a small, square box. Curious, I opened it. Inside was a necklace, silver, delicate, with a charm in the shape of a heart. A tiny letter K hung from it. My name doesn't start with K. I sat on the edge of the bed, the necklace resting in my palm, cold and unfamiliar. My fingers trembled. I didn't cry. Not right away. I just stared at it, numb. It could have been a gift for his mother. A sister. A work colleague. But my heart already knew. It wasn't the necklace itself, it was the hiding. The quiet secrets. The cold behavior. The long nights. The distance that had grown into a canyon. The truth didn't need to be spoken. It was sitting in my hand. Later that day, when Marcus came home, I waited. He walked into the kitchen, loosened his tie, poured himself a drink. I watched him from the doorway. I found the necklace, I said. He froze, his hand gripping the counter. Then slowly, he turned to face me. He didn't lie. He didn't try. He just sighed, ran a hand over his face, and looked down. I didn't mean for it to happen, he said quietly. I stood there, my arms folded tightly across my chest. So, it happened. I was lonely, he said. You were busy with the kids. We stopped talking. I don't even know when we stopped being us. I laughed softly. Not out of humor, out of disbelief. You were lonely? I asked. I've been sleeping in an empty bed for a year. I've been asking you to talk to me. To come back to me. I've been holding this house, this family, this marriage together while you disappeared. His eyes were glossy now. But I didn't care. Because I was tired of crying alone. You cheated, I said, finally saying it out loud. He nodded. I'm sorry, he whispered. But sorry couldn't fill the silence. It couldn't take away the cold dinners, the forgotten hugs, the nights I stared at the ceiling wondering why I wasn't enough. I turned around and went upstairs. He didn't follow me. And that silence said more than any apology ever could. That night, I tucked the kids in, kissed their foreheads, and lay in bed with my thoughts racing. I felt a strange mixture of emotions. Pain, of course. Anger. Confusion. But also, a flicker of clarity. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't being dramatic. I had been right all along, something was broken. And now it had a name. I got up, walked to the guest room, and stood at the doorway. He looked up from the edge of the bed. I'm not sure where we go from here, I said quietly. But I know one thing. He waited. I deserve better than this. He looked down again. I walked away. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel weak for speaking my truth. I felt strong. Because strength isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's the quiet decision to stop shrinking for someone else's comfort. Sometimes, it's saying, I love myself enough to stop begging to be loved. I didn't sleep that night. Not a single minute. My body lay still in bed, but my mind wouldn't stop spinning. Every word, every silence, every moment I begged for connection played back like an old movie I never asked to watch. The necklace sat on the dresser, staring at me like a wound that refused to close. By morning, I felt a quiet heaviness in my chest, not the sharp sting of heartbreak, but the tired weight of someone who had carried too much, for too long. I dropped the kids at school and drove back home in silence. No music. No radio. Just me and my thoughts. When I walked into the house, it felt different. The walls that once echoed memories now felt like strangers. The living room where we used to cuddle was now just furniture and forgotten warmth. The kitchen smelled like leftover promises. I stood there, frozen in the doorway, and suddenly, I couldn't breathe. Not from sadness. From exhaustion. I was tired of trying to be everything for someone who gave me nothing in return. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I called a therapist. Hi, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. My name is Lisa Carter. I think I'm losing myself in a marriage that no longer sees me. That call was only 15 minutes, but it cracked something open inside me. For the first time in years, I said the words out loud. And they didn't break me. They freed me. Later that day, I sat down with a notebook and began writing things I had forgotten. I used to love painting. I loved strawberry ice cream and walks by the lake. I used to dance around the house barefoot to old Beyoncé songs. I used to feel beautiful. Somewhere between motherhood, wifehood, and holding things together, I had lost myself. No, scratch that. I had given me away, piece by piece, for a man who didn't even notice I was disappearing. That evening, Marcus came home earlier than usual. I was sitting in the backyard with a cup of tea, watching the sunset, wrapped in an old cardigan that still smelled like lavender. He walked outside and stood behind me, unsure of what to say. "Lisa," he began, "I've been thinking." I raised my hand to stop him. "Marcus," I said, turning to face him, "I need to say this." He nodded slowly, lips pressed together. "I don't hate you," I began. "I want you to hear that first. I don't hate you. But I'm done breaking my own heart trying to fix something you won't even hold." He looked down at his shoes. "I begged for years, for your time, your eyes, your affection. I cried in the bathroom while you snored in the guest room. I made dinner for two every night knowing you wouldn't show up. And I still hoped. I still believed." My voice cracked, but I didn't stop. "I thought if I was patient enough, quiet enough, loyal enough, you'd love me like you used to. But now I see, it's not that I wasn't enough. It's that you stopped choosing me." His face softened with guilt, but I didn't give him a chance to interrupt. "I'm not asking you to explain anymore. I'm not asking for promises. I'm not asking for the man you used to be. I'm choosing myself now, not out of revenge, but out of survival." He took a breath, trying to say something, but I shook my head. "I'm not angry," I said quietly. "I'm just finally done." And I meant it. Not the way people say it in the middle of a fight, only to take it back the next day. I meant it from the depths of a woman who had finally heard her own voice after years of silence. That night, I packed a small bag and took the kids to my sister's place for the weekend. Not because I was running away, but because I needed space to breathe, to think, to begin. Lying on my sister's couch with Ava curled beside me and Jaden's soft snoring filling the room, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. It wasn't loud or flashy. It didn't come with fireworks. It just sat quietly in my chest, reminding me that I was still alive and that I still had a life to live. Sometimes, the most powerful thing a woman can say isn't "I love you" or "I forgive you." It's "I remember who I am." And in that moment, I remembered. It had been 4 weeks since I left the house with the kids. For weeks since I chose peace over pretending. I hadn't filed for divorce, not yet. I wasn't rushing anything. I was simply learning how to breathe again without holding my chest. Marcus called once or twice, mainly to ask how the kids were doing. He didn't fight. He didn't apologize again. He didn't ask me to come home. And that silence. It told me everything I needed to know. Some days I felt sad. Others, I felt strong. But I no longer felt invisible. I started going to therapy weekly. I joined a women's support group at the local community center. I even began painting again, just small things at first. Sunflowers, birds, the lake I loved as a girl. Jaden told me I laughed more now. Ava asked if we could paint our own plates and hang them on the wall like Mommy's new artwork. I didn't realize how much of myself I had lost until I started finding her again. One Saturday afternoon, I took the kids to a nearby lake. The same one Marcus and I used to visit before life got too busy, too tired, too full of silence. We spread out a picnic blanket, unpacked peanut butter sandwiches and apple slices, and lay under the open sky. Jaden asked, "Mom, are you and Dad still married?" I looked into his curious eyes, unsure how much truth his little heart could carry. "We are," I said honestly. "But sometimes, even when people are married, they grow apart." He nodded slowly, like he understood more than a 10-year-old should. Ava curled up next to me and whispered, "Are you sad, Mommy?" I kissed her forehead and smiled softly. "I was," I said. "But now I'm just learning how to be happy again." And I was. Not because I had all the answers, or because life was suddenly easy, but because I had stopped waiting to be chosen, and started choosing myself. That evening, Marcus showed up at my sister's house. The kids were in the backyard. I opened the door and saw him standing there, hands in his pockets, eyes tired, face unsure. "Can we talk?" he asked. I stepped out onto the porch. "I just wanted to say, I see it now," he said. "What I did. What I didn't do. You gave everything, and I gave you crumbs. I said nothing. I know I don't deserve it, but I want to try, counseling, anything." I want our family back. It should have felt good to hear. But instead, I felt calm. Peaceful. I had already begun healing from a wound he never thought I'd leave bleeding. I don't hate you, Marcus, I said gently. And I'm glad you see it now. But I needed you years ago. Not after the damage. He lowered his head. I think we both stopped choosing each other, I continued. But I kept trying long after you gave up. I begged with my actions. You answered with absence. He nodded. So this is it. I looked at him, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of the answer. This is me choosing to be whole. He didn't argue. He just looked at me, really looked, and whispered, "You deserve better." "I know," I replied. He left without another word. And I walked back into the house, not broken, not bitter, just free. Later that night, after the kids fell asleep, I stood in front of the mirror. I studied my reflection, the faint smile forming on my lips, the strength in my eyes. I didn't look like the woman who had begged to be noticed. I looked like the woman who had finally noticed herself. Sometimes, the real love story isn't about saving the marriage. It's about saving the woman inside it. And that's what I had done. Not for revenge. Not for pride. But for peace. For me. Being married doesn't always mean you're not alone. But staying lost in someone else's silence isn't love, it's surrender. The bravest thing a woman can do is remember who she is. And choose herself, even if it means walking away from what once felt like forever. Healing starts the moment you stop waiting to be chosen. And start choosing your own joy.